Hi, it's Chris with Implied Music, and today is part 2 of our musical symmetries lesson because I neglected the chords built-in thirds. I guess I really don't like them that much, but that's a whole second issue. First of all, I just want to say thanks for watching this video. And if this video and all the ones that I've done every day for the past year are useful to you, subscribe to the channel. This channel's been growing just really well the past year. I'm very proud to be able to do this work with you. And let's keep it rolling, right? So do you remember what we said about symmetries yesterday? If you didn't happen to see the video, let's do just a quick review. So when something is symmetrical musically, I don't mean symmetrical mechanically, like these two hands are symmetrical around the tips of my thumbs, but when something is symmetrical musically, it has an ambiguous tonal center. The most direct example of that being the chromatic scale. I have no idea what the tonal center of that scale is. And there are other scales that will do that. We said the whole tone scale is also that way. And there's a couple of whole tone scales. They're interlocking like this, right? Well, other scales that are useful for us that are symmetrical include the diminished scale, which is whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step, half step, the octatonic scale, and so on from there. Now, we could get pretty abstract about symmetrical scales. For instance, check this out. Half step, minor third, half step, whole step, half step, minor third. You can look at this and you can see it has a kind of a symmetrical look, doesn't it? In fact, there are a number of unusual scales, that is to say, not just the Ionian major scales, that exhibit symmetrical qualities and that have been given names over the years. This one, the double harmonic minor, has a kind of a North African flavor that's kind of cool. But today I want to talk about chords. And most specifically, two types of chords, and we call these chords diminished or augmented, the two different types of chords. Here's what characterizes a diminished chord. Unlike a major triad or a minor triad, both of which exhibit major thirds and minor thirds, diminished chords are made of only minor thirds, unlike major or minor triads. Here's my diminished triad. 2 minor thirds. Half step, half step, half step. 3 half steps make a minor third. Another 3 half steps, another minor third. And if I just go up in minor thirds, I'll go from C to C, up in minor thirds. And that is a terrifically ambiguous chord. I don't know what the tonal center of it is. And in fact, the biggest reason that I don't know what the tonal center of it is this. This diminished 7th chord, which has 4 notes in it, contains 2 tritones. Tritones are the engine of functional harmony. The 3rd and 7th of any dominant chord make a tritone. And so a diminished chord just sets everything on its head and says, you know what, I'm going to have 2 tritones, not just 1. And I'm not even going to really tell you what the root of the chord is because I'm just going to mess with you. So if I take this chord here and say, you know what, I want this tritone to be the important one, that's the tritone from, oh, I don't know, either D7 or A flat 7, I guess, right? Tritone substitution means I can use them as in either role. D7G A flat 7, D flat. Tritones either expand outwards or contract inwards. What that means for us in the long run is that any diminished chord can go 4 ways. Every one of these notes can be a leading tone. Diminished chords are transitional chords, and they most frequently appear in that role. They function as substitutes for dominant chords. You'll see this type of thing. This is the classic Elton John trick, where in this case C goes to C sharp diminished and resolves to D minor. In this case, the diminished 7th chord on C sharp is functioning like an A7 chord. Diminished chords are ambiguous. They're symmetrical, but they usually function as dominants. And I think just between you and me, that's the reason I didn't really include them yesterday when I was doing the symmetrical chord overview, because I like 4ths and 5ths in symmetries more. Let's go on to the augmented, the major third stack. So if I begin on C again, a major third is E, and a major third up from E is G sharp. 2 major thirds make an augmented triad. Now, as it happens, if I go up another major third, I'll get to C again. So here we go. This augmented chord has a strongly ambiguous quality. I'm not really sure how to use it just hearing the sonority. Is that a leading tone going to A? It might be. Let's see what you think. Yeah, it's not bad, right? I think that augmented chords are best as passing chords to other places. For instance, C augmented to F is a really strong sound. I will use it just as a floaty sonority. Like if you take an augmented chord and then add, I'm in outer space, right? It's a nice effect and kind of like dreamy. It's the I remember it like it was yesterday thing, right? Well, augmented chords are not a giant part of my own personal arsenal. They appear in songwriting as very often transitional chords from one major to another, and usually appear as, again, dominant chords. Both of these sort of chordal sonorities, they're both symmetrical chords, the diminished and the augmented, are dominant chords, basically, or function as dominant chords in functional harmony. But they don't necessarily have to be that. They can be sonorities in their own right, standalone sounds. But the conventions of the sounds historically are such that your listener is going to experience them as kind of like horror movie or suspense tonalities, right? If you just play a diminished chord, it's like a silly silent movie sound, right? It's not, it's hard to really own it, right? The syntax of it is very, very strong, I guess is what I mean. I don't think I have much more to say about these two things. I'd be curious to know if you find these types of things useful in your own music. I would say that the greatest utility for both of these chords are as passing chords, functioning as substitutes for dominance. The diminished chord probably more than the augmented, but they both work that way. Well, let me know how it works for you. And I do hope this has been useful. Like and subscribe and ding the bell. You'll be notified when I do my videos. I'm trying to do videos every day. Subscribing to the channel, leaving me a comment, it helps me go forward and figure out what to do next. And so I really appreciate your attention and time. And I'll see you next time.